Judge Tilak, my greetings to all the Tibetan students who have computer science as one of the majors in class 12. I hope you all are keeping safe and taking special care of yourself in this most difficult and challenging time of COVID-19 crisis. Since this is the first time, I would like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Tenzin Samdup and I teach in TCV. I'm here to post video lesson on my subject, computer science with Python. I hope you are well aware of the fact that the first two chapters, Python Revision 201 and 202, are nothing but basically the reviews of what you have learned in class 11. So I hope that you have good solid background or the basic of Python as a programming language. Hence, I'll not be touching upon those two chapters. Chapter number 3, which is working with function. Chapter number 4, Python libraries, are relatively easier and smaller chapter as compared to file handling. And then from the marks weightage point of view, this particular chapter has far more weightage as compared to the other two. And another important reason why I am straight away starting with this particular chapter is this chapter undeniably has to be one of the most important chapters in your curriculum. So without any further delay, let's get started. The name of the chapter, File Handling. I have listed some points. The first point says Introduction. Most of the softwares or the programs work with files. I'm sure you must have seen certain softwares or programs which have nothing to do with the file as such. But most of the larger programs, most of the popular programs or softwares, they work with files. The reason is simple and straight. Files facilitate permanent storage of information. I repeat, file facilitates permanent storage of information. Let's take a very simple example. Word processor, Microsoft Word. Whatever we do with Microsoft Word is all about dealing with files. You have document files which you could create, you could modify, you could delete. Let's take another example of a database program like MS Access. Again, this program deals with file, and this file has nothing but collection of information. And then we have our very own language processor. If you could recall correctly, the language processor is a software which is used to convert high-level language to machine language. So in the process, what happens is language processor generates source file, and then at the end it generates the object file. So basically it's all files when it comes to dealing with the larger programs or program of bigger magnitude. So every programming languages offer some kind of provision or facility in order to manage or manipulate files, and Python is no exception. So let's continue further. Now this particular chapter is all about dealing and manipulating with files. Through this particular chapter, we are going to learn how to implement a program which deals with files. That's it about the introduction. Now the second important point is data files. I will not be explaining you the entire points. I'll offer you a brief explanation first, and then I'll get on with the practical demonstration of the program, which will give you a clearer or more complete picture over these important concepts. Otherwise, if I go on explaining all the points without getting on with the program, you may feel difficulty in understanding the concept, right? So the data files, there are two kinds of data files. The first one is text file and the second one is binary file. I'll offer you a simple explanation. I'll keep it short and simple. These two types of files basically mean the mode via which the information is stored in the file. The mean or the mode or the format via which the information is written or stored in the file. In the first text file, what happens is, let's say if you choose to store the information in the file via text file, what happens is the information will be encoded. The characters will be encoded in the form of ASCII or Unicode character system. So as a result of which, there is some translation which takes place internally. Whenever we gather information from the user, when you do the live programming, the format that is being implemented is in binary format. But when the same binary information is written onto a file, some kind of translation or conversion takes place, as a result of which the information is stored either in the form of ASCII or in the form of Unicode. These are nothing but character encoding system. I'm sure you must have learned a bit about these character encoding system like ASCII, Unicode when you were in class 11. The second kind of file is called binary file. And this particular format of storing the information, the way the information is stored in the memory, the same format is used when it comes to writing or storing the information in the file. All right. So obviously, understandably, there is no translation as such. You deal with binary, you store the files in the memory in a binary format, and then what happens with binary file is the information will be stored in the files in the binary format. So basically, there is no conversion or no translation as such. If I pose you a question just to help you in differentiating between the first type and the second type, let's say which one of these two would be faster when it comes to reading, when it comes to writing? Understandably, the answer has to be the binary format. There is no translation as such. Hence, when the file is read, when the file is written into, the speed will be much faster. But having said this, text file has its own merits or advantages. So we'll keep this in the later videos. So the third important point is opening files. So whenever you write a program, first things first, you need to open a file, be it a writing process or be it a reading process. So we'll do a small program in order to help you understand better regarding how to open a file, how to deal with the file access modes, right? Okay. In order to save time of the duration of the video, I have listed all the questions, and then I'll be showing you the programs one by one. And by the way, I'm using the IDE called Jupyter. It's been a while since I've been using this, and I feel very comfortable. And I recommend that you use the Jupyter IDE. I won't go on with the explanation why I recommend you to choose Jupyter, but even if you prefer to use PyCharm, for that matter, the default IDE, more or less, it's the same thing. It's just that when it comes to maintaining a file, when it comes to running the program, Jupyter seems to have a slight edge over the other two, but I leave it to you. Okay, so the first program says reading a file's first 30 bytes and printing it. Okay, so this is the question. But before you write a program, I need to have a file, because the very question is all about reading the information from the file. So let's go and create a simple text file. We'll create a folder in C drive. Okay, and the name of the folder I prefer to have temp. Alright, and then in this particular folder I'll be creating a text file. Go to new and then the text document. Let's keep the name of the file as Tenzin, and then I'll open this. I'll have some information entered. Let's say Tibet. I am a Tibetan. Okay, I'll just have this converted to big T, and then I am proud to be one. Right, so let's save the file, close it. Let's go back to Jupyter. Okay, the first statement would be my file equals open, and then what follows is the path of the file. It's a C drive //. Be careful, it's not the // The name of the folder is temp, and then followed by the name of the file, which is tenzin.txt. txt is the extension. I need to have double slash, contrary to the usual practice of having just one slash in the operating system. I'll explain the reason a little later. Okay, so let's go to the second statement. I'll complete the program and then get on with the explanation. str equals my file dot read, and then I'll have number 10 followed by print statement str. Okay, let's run it. Okay, there you go. I got the right output. So let's try to understand the program. Open is a name of inbuilt function. I hope you know the meaning of function. Function is nothing but a collection of statements which is used to perform a specific operation. Okay, so this is nothing but a function by the name of open. So basically what I am doing is I am making a call. I call a function by the name of open. Okay, so the function definition for the open is lying somewhere behind the scene. The function will start to execute. It will carry out its intended or designated operation, and then the program continues. But we don't need to worry about the logic of the program. How does the program work? Because it's inbuilt. Generally, the functions which are standard, the functions which are common in nature, those functions are generally designed as inbuilt function, because these are the ones which have to be used time and again. So I called the function called open, and I sent a parameter, and this parameter is nothing but the path of the file. So behind the scene, what happens is the function definition will open or activate the file by the name of Tenzin, which resides in temp folder, which in turn resides under the C drive. If I give you a quick analogy, say I would like to clean my room. Okay, so I give a call to the housemate. So that's something similar to calling the function. Okay, and then housemate turns up. I now need to give the instruction. So this parameter is something similar to the instruction. That's it. I now need not worry about the process. The housemate will carry out its work. So this is an analogy to a function call. Once this particular statement is executed, what happens is there will be a value which is being returned from the function. Okay, the first step is I call the function called open. Open will activate the file by the name of Tenzin, and then what will be returned is an object or a value, and this object or a value is nothing but a reference, okay, or a link to that specific file by the name of Tenzin. So that reference is being assigned to my file. Okay, So this function will return a reference, and this reference will be assigned to my file. So what is this my file? This my file is a file object or a file handle or a reference or a link to the file by the name of Tencent. So henceforth, whatever operation you would like to perform on the file of Tencent must be done through the file handle by the name of my file. This is very, very important. This is the first thing that you need to understand at any cost. All right. So let's get on with the next statement. So with the file object, what happens is I execute another function by the name of read. So this read function is one of the reading functions. It is used to read the information from the file. So this parameter or a value refers to the number of bytes. So one character needs 1 byte for storage, as is the case in ASCII, but in Unicode, I think, in order to store a character, you need 2 bytes, but the default setting being the ASCII code, 10 bytes means 10 characters. All right. So this read function will read 10 bytes or 10 characters, and this particular sequence or the collection will be returned as a string into a variable by the name of str, which means str will now have a string value, which is a sequence of characters, sequence of 10 characters read from the file handle of my file, which provides the link to the text file by the name of Tencent. And finally, we print it, and that's how we get the value of Tibet IAM. You might wonder, when you count the number of characters, the count comes to 8, but the important thing to be noted here is the whitespace characters should also be considered. What do you mean by whitespace characters? The characters which are invisible to us, which cannot be seen on the screen, but if they have to be represented, we normally use the escape sequence. I hope you remember this particular topic in class 11. So let's take a look at the text file Tencent. Here we'll just start with the counting 1 2 3 4 5, and then you have the enter key pressed. This enter key pressed is internally represented as a new line character or end of the line character, EOL. This is again nothing but a character which will occupy 1 byte. So you have 5 here, new line character 6, 7, space is the 8th, A is the 9th, M is the 10th. This is how we get to see Tibet IAM. Okay, so this is the first program that deals with program number 1, which is all about reading a file's first 30 bytes and then printing it. Okay, let's move on to the next one, program number 2. So I'll be solving these programs one by one and thereby establishing the link between the above mentioned points with the actual concept. Okay, now this should be pretty easy. Program number 2 says reading n bytes and then reading some more bytes from the last position read. Okay, so I would like to continue with the reading process. So we'll just repeat the first statement. My file is equal to open followed by C:/ and then the name of the folder is stamp. The name of the file is Tencent.txt. Okay, str equals myfile.read. Let's keep it to 10 and then print str. All right, and then str equals myfile.read 10 print str. Okay, let's run the program and check. Okay, look at this. So In this particular program, I want you to take note of one very important effect. When you print the first read operation, it will understandably show us Tibet I space AM as explained in the first program, and then what you see down there is a Tibetan. So when you continue with the next read operation, the reading will not restart from the beginning of the file. It will continue from the point of the last position read, which was I am. Okay, so as a result of which, when I continue with the reading process, the remaining characters, the leftover characters, will be read, therefore will be printed. So this is one important thing to be noted. The reading process will always continue. This looks little, weird. The reason is the print statement will always by default insert a new line. So in order to get rid of this particular line, we'll use this end equals. Okay, and then let's do the same thing here, end equals, and then let's run the program. Okay, this is better. So again, let's do a quick counting. It starts here, space 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So in the second program, what you need to know is, once you read the first line and then when you try to read it again, it will not restart, rather it will continue further. So this is the program with regard to the program number 2. Program number 3. Now before I move on with program number 3, I would like to make a special mention on the double slash. Why do we need double slash? Let's say I get rid of this. and then I run the program. Oh, there you go. I see some serious error. The Python interpreter is reporting an error. The reason is, the moment you put the backslash, this backslash has a special meaning. And this is what we mean by escape sequence. When you put this backslash, just one backslash, it has a special meaning. It teams up with the following character, which is T, and then together these two convey a special meaning. Okay, so the meaning of /T is the effect of the tab key. You have the tab key on the keyboard. When you press it, what happens? The cursor jumps by half an inch, right? So the effect of pressing a tab key on the screen is represented by an escape sequence by the name of /T. So this will distort, the very path of the file name. So in order to suppress this, the special meaning which is being carried by the slash, what I do is I put another slash. Okay, likewise here. So which means now this slash will no longer team up with this T. This slash will no longer team up with this T, which means there is now no situation of tab effect coming into the program. Okay, so as a result of which, this particular effect of escape sequence, will be suppressed. I hope you understood, the reason why we have two slashes. Okay, now let's move on to the next program. Reading a file's entire content. In the earlier two examples, the reading was based on the individual characters. But at times, you would like to print the entire file. For this, we'll start with my file equals. It's a good idea to be writing this again and again so that you will be able to register the common statements in your mind without much of an effort. So my file equals open function, and then you have the C:/ you have temp / okay, followed by Tenzin.jpg. str.txt. There you go. And then str equals myfile.read. This is straight and simple. If you do not specify any value here, the entire content of the file will be read. I repeat, if you do not specify any value, by default, this read function will read the entire content of the file. So we'll just print str and then let's run this. Okay, so I get to see the entire content of the file. So the difference between the read with value and read without value is, if you supply in a value for the read function, the so number of bytes will be read. That's it. But if you do not specify any value, the entire content of the file will be read. Okay, I hope I made myself abundantly clear. Okay, let's move on to program number 4. Program number 4 states reading a file's first 3 lines line by line. Now this time the reading process is not based on individual bytes or individual characters. Rather, it is line by line, which understandably requires a usage of another function. So let's go up and check the other 2 reading functions. So these 3 are functions which are based on reading information from the files. So the second one is read line. So okay, so this particular function will read a line from the file. But the question is, how will this function decide where and how this line has to be terminated? Or in other words, how will this function decide upon terminating the line or the end of the line? So in the Notepad file, the moment I press enter, the cursor jumps to this. So in the process, a character called Newline Character or EOL will be inserted right here. So it is through this particular character, EOL or Newline Character, the readLine function will be able to decide when to end the reading process. So in short, readLine function will keep reading the line until the Newline character is encountered or end of line character is encountered. In the second line, it will go on, but it'll stop here because the fact that I've entered here, which means there will be a Newline character inserted. Okay, so let's do the program. My file equals open and then c:/temp/ and then the name of the file is tenzin.txt. okay, and then str equals myfile.read. Now this time we are going to use read line and then print str. Okay, so we'll just copy and paste it in order to speed up my video lesson. Okay, 2 more. Okay, there you go. So when you press enter, I get to see the individual lines. Tibet is the result of the first print statement. I am a Tibetan is the result of second print statement. And I am proud to be one is the result of the third print statement. So as and when the interpreter reads the lines through the function of read line, like I said earlier, it will continue. It will proceed further. It will pick up the remaining number of characters. Okay, so this particular line is inserted by the print statement. So let's put an end to this. End equals, get this, and then you do the same thing here. End equals, and then finally end equals. Okay, so if you run the program, the output will look much better. So this particular function read line reads the line of text till the Newline character is encountered. Okay, let's move on to program number 5. Okay, program number 5 is reading a complete file, but it has to be line by line using either while or for loop. The problem with this program is, let's say if the file has 100 lines, which means you need to copy and paste it 100 times. So that's not a good idea. So we'll make the program a little smarter by using the loop. All right. Okay. So again, my file equals, there you go, open function followed by c:/temp/ and then Tenzin.txt. Okay, it's a very good idea to be writing this again and again. As and when you keep on saying this, naturally it will get registered in your mind. Okay, so let's have a string variable by the name of string, and then let's assign a space. Okay, I need to press a space here, which means the value of str is a space. Space, even though it's invisible, but it is a definite character, just like A, just like B. Even though we can't see it, but internally it occupies 1 byte, just like a character A occupies a byte. I have a reason for this. Okay, let's use the while str:. Let's get to the body of this while loop. So we'll use the same function. Okay, str equals my file dot read line, right? And then I'll have the print statement str followed by int equals, okay, a pair of single quote. So let's run the program. Okay, there you go, I got the correct output. Now this time I just wrote just one print statement, but using the while loop I managed to get the entire content of the file printed at one go. Let's try to understand this briefly. It's pretty easy. The value of str is a space, which means it's not a none value. There is a value by the name of none, N-O-N-E. Why it's not a none value is I have assigned a space to it. If it were to be like this, then perhaps you can call this as a none value. But this certainly is not a none value. So basically it's none value. All right. So while str, so the value of str is not none, which means it has a value. So in Python, if it has a value, it evaluates to true. If it's none, if it's null, if it doesn't have a value, it evaluates to false. So basically, since the value of str is a space, it's something like while true. So you have learned in class 11, as long as the condition following while evaluates to true, you need to keep iterating the loop. You need to keep executing the loop as long as the value of while evaluates to true. The moment the value evaluates to false, you need to come out of the loop. Okay, so the next statement, it reads the first line, which is Tibet, I suppose. It's, it'll be assigned to str. Tibet will be printed. The loop reruns. So this time the value of str is Tibet. Remember, right here, it's Tibet. Tibet is none value. Hence, this evaluates to true. The next line will be read. I'm a Tibetan will be assigned to str. It'll be printed. So this will go on and on until the end of the file. At the end of the file, when there is nothing to be read, the value of str will evaluate to none value, which means it's false. So while false means that's the end of the while loop. So this is how the program comes to an end, and this is how this piece of program will be able to show the entire content of the file with just one print statement, but I've used the while. So you could do the same thing using for. Okay, so I'll just get rid of this. It's pretty simple. For, let's have a loop variable called str in my file. I'm sure you do remember this particular statement in class 11. the loop variable walks through the characters in the string. Okay, so something similar to that. str will walk through the file handle of my file, which points to tenzin.txt on a basis of line. So basically it will walk through the file line by line. It will keep picking up the characters on the first line until the new line character is encountered. The moment the new line character is encountered, it will be read, it will be assigned to str. So the first value of str is sequence of characters up to and including the new line character of the first line. Okay, so I'll just print str followed by end equal pair of quote. That's it, I guess. So if you run the program, I get the same output. Okay, in order to be absolutely clear, what I'll do is I'll first get rid of this, cut it, run it. I don't have the output here, paste it, and then run this. Okay, there you go. I get the same output. So this is how I'm able to print the entire content of the file using either for or while. So just in case in the exam, if you are asked to print the entire content of the file, you could do either ways. Okay, let's go to the next program, which is program number 5, and it is displaying the size of file with and without end of line, leading, trailing, white spaces, and blank lines. So when we say size, we are actually talking in terms of number of bytes occupied by the file called Tenzin. Okay, so EOL means, let's take a look at this file. EOL means the new line character. When you move from the first line to the second line, we have to press enter. So this enter will be considered as one of the white space character. Specifically, that's what we mean by the new line character, another new line character, and then I have pressed 2 spaces in front of Tibet. Alright, so I now have 2 white spaces character. These are actually called as leading white space characters, and this is trailing white space character. These two are a space, but this is a new line character. But since both cannot be seen on the screen, they need to be represented through the escape sequence. Hence, these are actually called as white space characters. Okay, so let's go back to the program. Let's have the first statement. By now, you should be comfortable with the statements of the program. Okay, so it has to be my file equals open C:2 slashes and then temp slashes followed by tenzin.txt. Okay, and then we'll have 2 variables. The first one to keep track of the size of the file with the white space characters, and another variable to keep track of the size of file without the white space characters. So we'll have size here, which is equal to 0. So this will keep track of the size of a file including the white space characters, and then another variable which will keep track of the size without the white space characters. Alright, and then we'll use the while statement. str should be assigned with a value of space as explained in the earlier program, and then we'll have the while statement followed by str. So the value of str will be true, since the value of str is a space. Hence its none value, this has to be treated as a true value. Okay, and then let's do the reading. str equals my file dot read, okay, line, and then right here what I'll do is I'll write size equals len of str. So what this len function will do is it will count the number of characters in the str, and what you have in str is the sequence of characters of the first line which has been read from the file handle of my file. So in short, the value of str will be the first line, and then len function will count the number of characters which will be equivalent to number of bytes, and this value will be assigned to size. So the size will have the number of bytes or number of characters of the first line of the file called Tencent. And then we'll go further. T size equals str len of str, and then I'll use another function by the name of strip. Okay, so this function strip means to remove. This strip function will remove all the leading and the trailing. Leading means the spaces which are in the front, trailing means the spaces which the whitespace characters which are at the end. But in between the characters, the spaces will not be stripped or removed. Only the leading and the trailing ones, will be stripped, and then len function will count the number of characters. So as per our example, I hope you remember I have entered 2 leading spaces in the front. So this strip function will remove or strip those 2 leading spaces. Once they are removed, len function will now carry out with the counting, which means it will be 2 less. And then we'll move on. That's it. And then finally, when the reading process gets over, it takes place line by line until it reaches the end of the file. The moment it reaches the end of the file, the value of str will be none, which evaluates to false. This is how the program comes to an end. The loop comes to an end rather. And then finally, I would like to print a message. The size of file including white space characters is equal to size. Okay, and then print size of file without white space characters is equal to t size. All right, so I'm not very sure whether the program runs correctly, but let's run and check. Okay, what do we have here? Oh, I've made a mistake here. The mistake is I have missed out on size plus, and then here it has to be t size plus. Okay, let's rerun the program. Okay, there you go. I got the right answer. So if you find the difference between the two, you have a difference of 4, I guess. 39 plus 4 is 43. So let's go and check the file. Okay, how many leading spaces do we have in front of Tibet? There are 2. And then at the end of the first line, we have another white space character in the form of Newline. So that makes 3. And then another Newline character, which is again a white space character. So all in all, there are 4 white space characters. 2 spaces in the front of Tibet, and then 2 Newline characters. Okay, so when you count the number of characters in the file, that will amount to 43, and then this particular strip function will remove the leading 2 spaces and then trailing 2 Newline characters. So this is how you should write a program as per this particular question. Right? So we'll just rerun this program in a quick matter of time. Okay, quickly everybody. str, the value of str is space, which means it will evaluate to true. It will read the first line. First line will be assigned to str. In the first line of Tibet, it will count the number of characters. It will count the number of characters. The number of characters is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 will be assigned to size. Okay, and then again the value of str, which is the first line. Now this time the leading two spaces and that single Newline character will be skipped, will be removed, and then counting will restart. Now this time the counting will start as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is the value which will be assigned to 0 plus 5 is 5. Okay, so you have here 8, you have here 5. So again the loop restarts. The new value of str will be I am a Tibetan. So if I do a quick count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 is the value which will be added to the earlier count of size, which was 8. So that will be 23. Okay, so 23 becomes the new value of size. So this size now has the total number of characters in the first line as well as in the second line, including all white space characters. So let's go to the second statement. The earlier value of t size was just a bit. Remember, two earlier spaces were stripped. The Newline character is also stripped. So the value of t size was just 5. Now this time in the second line, the trailing new line character, which is a white space character, will be removed, and then it will carry out the counting. The value will be assigned to t size. Okay, I forgot the value. What was that? Say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So now the value will be 14 thanks to the strip function. Okay, so this will go on until the loop ends, and then finally we get to see the size of the file with whitespace characters as 43, and size of file without whitespace characters amounts to 39. I hope I made myself clear. Okay, let's check out the next question. It's a good idea, if you could copy all the questions and the programs. Okay, the next question is reading the complete file in a list. We are done with the two read functions. The first one is where is it? We are done with read. We are also done with read line. Now what is left is read lines. Okay, there is one extra s here. Okay, let's check out how read lines work. Okay, so let's do the program first. So again, that same old statement, my file equals open, and then you have c:// followed by temp. The name of the file is tenzin.txt, right? So this time I'm going to use the third and the last function, which is read lines. We'll have str here equals my file dot read lines, and then we'll print the value of str. First we'll run the program and then get on with the explanation. All right, just run this. Okay, now this time I'm getting to see a different kind of output. You have this pair of square bracket. Do you remember this square bracket the representation of this square bracket? If you are able to recall correctly, we have learned a data type by the name of list. So this square bracket represents the data type of list. So when you print the value of str, read lines function prepares or returns a list. The elements of the list are nothing but the individual lines of the file. Look at this. This is the first element of the list. This is the second element of the list. This is the third element of the list. If you take a closer look at how these elements are prepared, these elements are prepared based on the individual lines. At the end of each line, what do we see here? We see this whitespace character, which is internally represented as escape sequence in the form of /n or newline character or end of the line. So this is what happens with readlines. So readlines is a function which will print the entire content of the file, but the difference with read and readline is this readlines function will always return the values in the form of a list. The thing with the read function and the readline function is those two functions will always return the values as a collection or as a sequence of characters, and finally they are wrapped up as a data type by the name of string. But this particular function, unlike the earlier two, will return the values in the form of list, where the individual elements are the lines of the content of the file. Okay, so this is the basic difference between readlines and readline. Okay, so in order to make the picture even clearer, we'll deal with more such programs in later video lessons. But as of now, since this is the first video, I would like to keep it simple and short so that you will not be confused, amongst these three reading functions. Okay, let's move on with the next program number 7. Display the size of file in bytes. Now these two questions will actually check how much you have understood the earlier topic and the subtopics. So the question is, I just need to display the size of a file in terms of bytes. So immediately your thought should be over the choice of 3 available reading functions. The first one is read, the second one is read line, and the third one is read lines. So let's get on with the program. My file, you don't need to keep the same name, you could always change it. Let's say file equals open function. You cannot of course change this. This is the inbuilt function. And then you have c:/temp/ followed by Tenzin.txt. Okay, I hope you do remember when I said this. If you do not specify any value in read function, what happens? It will read the entire content of the file. Okay, so let's have size variable, and then we'll use the len function, which calculates the number of characters or number of the bytes, followed by the file handle. Okay, and then you have the read function. All right, and then finally we'll have the print statement. The size of this file is followed by size. All right, so when you run the program, it says 43, which matches correctly with the earlier program. So how does this work is, this read function, it is without any value. If you do not specify any value, the default functioning of this read is it will read the entire content of the file. Okay, and then once it's read, this particular function will now count the number of characters in that read operation, and the value will be assigned to size. And this is how I print the size of a file. So in future, any text file, any document files, if you would like to check the size of files, I'm sure you must have checked the size of a certain file Some of the word files are really big, some of the word files are pretty small. So basically this is, you could right click on that file and go to properties from the shortcut menu to check the size of the file. Some of them are 43 KB, some of them are 2 KB. So basically this is, the main crux of the programming logic behind the calculation of the size of the file, right? But this is with regard to the situation where you have just text or characters in your file. If it were to be images, then it's altogether a different story. So this is how you write the program for the question number 7. Okay, question number 8. Let's move on to question number 8. Display the number of lines in the file. This time we need to count the number of lines in the file. Okay, so how and on what basis the Python decides the line? Like I said earlier, it decides based on the Newline character. If the Newline character is encountered, the sequence of characters up to and including the new line character will be treated as a single line. So this is a very important concept. So the Newline character, which gets encoded as a result of us pressing enter, will denote whether it has to be treated as one complete line or not. So in order to count the number of lines, you cannot do it with read, okay, because what happens with read is it either reads certain specific number of characters, or it reads the entire content. So there is no way for us to keep track of the number of lines. What happens with read line is, yes, you could do the program with read line using a loop, okay, and then every time the loop runs, you could increment a given value or a variable, and for the next iteration again you could also increment the variable. But if you could do the program with the read lines, it'll be a lot easier. The reason is, what happens with read lines is the read lines will return the entire file in terms of elements of the list. So somehow if you are able to count the number of elements in the list, that would be equivalent to number of lines in the file. Like I said earlier, in this particular example, these are individual lines. Okay, these are individual lines, but these are also elements of the list. So can I say the number of elements in the list is equal to the number of lines in the file? I repeat, can I say so? The number of elements in the list is equivalent to number of lines in the file. Okay, so that makes our job much simpler if we decide to use the read lines instead of read line. We'll try the same program using read line in the next program, but as of now we'll focus on read lines. So again, the same old statement of f is equal to open c colon two slashes, temp is the name of the folder, followed by Tencent.txt. Okay, we'll use the readlines function. Okay, but for this, since we need to keep account of number of lines, we'll have size equals len of f dot read lines. Okay, and then we'll print the value of size. Number of lines is equal to size. Okay, I don't know why this screen is shaking a little bit. Okay, let's run this. We should get the answer as 3. Okay, we have 3 lines, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so as a result of which, we get the output exactly as 3. How does this work is f.readlines, this particular statement will return a list with 3 elements. The first element corresponds to the first line, the second element of the list corresponds to the second line, third element of the list corresponds to the third line of the file. So this len will now count the number of elements in the list. So the number of elements in the list is 3. 3 will be assigned to size, and this is how we get the output as 3. Okay, so let's do the same thing using read line. Now this could be one possibility which is not there in the textbook. So let's try the same program, but you are supposed to use only read. But for this we need to take the help of while loop. So f is equal to open c 2 slashes followed by temp slashes and then tension.txt. Okay, and then we should have str equals, okay, a space, remember, and then followed by while str colon. I'll not explain again. The logic is similar to the one which we have done in the earlier program. Okay, so now this time we have to use the function of readLine, which will pick up the information based on line. Okay, so str is equal to f dot read line. It will pick up the first line. It will pick up the first line, and then we now need to count. For this, we'll have a variable to keep the count of number of characters in the individual lines. Let's say s should be equal to 0. Now this is important. S should be initialized to 0. The moment 0 is initialized to s now becomes an integer variable. In the earlier statement, I've assigned a space to str. Space is nothing but a character. Hence, str is a string variable. This is the most wonderful thing about Python. It's very dynamic in nature when it comes to creating a variable. In the earlier programming languages, we need to first declare a variable to be of certain type and then get on with the calculation or manipulation. But here it's so dynamic in nature. The first value will decide the data type of the variable. Okay, so the next line will be s is equal to s plus 1. The reason why we are adding 1 to s is we need to keep incrementing the value of s with each pass of a loop. With each iteration, we have to increment the value of s to keep track of the number of lines in the file. And then finally, let's come out of the program and then print size. Sorry, it's not size. The number of lines is s. And then if we run this, I should get the output as 3. Okay, but I'm getting 4. So there must be some error somewhere. We'll try to figure out. Let's trace the logic of the program. Let's get this back. Okay, let's do this real quick. So it's a good idea to be learning how to fix the error. It's bound to come across error, especially when you're trying to learn programming for the first time, and then in later courses, in future as well, as and when you try to come up with a big project, the errors are a common sight. So it's so important to develop the skill of debugging the error, the process of locating and fixing the error. So this gives us a nice opportunity to do the same. So we'll do a quick tracing of the logic of the program. The initial value of str is space. Okay, so and then str gets the first line, and the s will change to 0 plus 1 is 1. And then loop resumes. Str new value is Tibet. Okay, so it evaluates to true. It now reads the next line, I am a Tibetan. Okay, and then s changes to 2. The new value of str is I'm a Tibetan, which again it evaluates to true. It then reads the next line, I am proud to be 1, and then S gets updated to 3. Okay, now this is where the problem is. Now the new value of str is I am proud to be 1, but the value of S is already 3. So this condition will be true. It gets inside the loop. It will now read the next line. The next line is none. There is no line in the file. It has reached the end of the file already. So the value of str will be none or null. But S, whose value was 3, will have to be incremented. So the new value of S, is 4. The fact that the value of str is I am proud to be 1, the fact that new value of str is none, but this will get executed anyhow. So the value of S now becomes 4, and then when the while checks the next value of str, which is none, the condition evaluates to false. You come out of the loop, and then this is how the value of S as 4 gets printed. Okay, so in order to tweak the program a little bit, you could either read the first line here and then start with the loop. Okay, read the first line before the loop starts and then get on with the same logic. Or if you want to make it real simple, you could just subtract 1 from it. So this program is basically the same as the program number 8, but this was done using the readLine function instead of readLines function. Okay, so I would like to put an end to today's lesson, but before I wind up, let's take a look at this PDF file, which is found in the official website of the textbook author, Python for CS, Computer Science and Informatics Practices. So this will give us a nice review of what we have learned till this point. Let's do this real quick, and then please note this website. This is a nice website where you'll be finding these PDF, these short notes. So it's a good idea if you could copy this and then learn it and revise it. Okay, so the first topic for today's video lesson is the introduction, the data files, how to open, how to close. I've not shown you how to close the file. That will be covered in later video lessons. So I'll not have this included as a part of this lesson. Otherwise the video becomes really lengthy. I would like to keep the duration to 1 hour as per the directives from the DOE CTA. And then we have learned how to read. We have not yet learned how to write. Okay, and then these are the topics which will be covered later. And this is the definition of file handling. Okay, you could just take a look. If you have understood my lesson, and then try to go through these notes, things will match up nicely. Okay, so these slides are good for the review of the topic and the subtopics that we have covered. These are the two data files, the text file and the binary file. Like I've said, the ASCII code and the Unicode are used in the text file, whereas in the binary, the format in which the information is stored in the memory is as per the information stored in the file itself. Okay, and then the steps in data file handling, the first one obviously has to be opening a file, and then the actual operation. Since this is the first lesson, we have just done the reading, and then later on we have the writing, we have the modification in terms of text file as well as in binary file. So it's a little lengthy chapter. And then how to close the file, which will be covered later. And then these are the syntax or the structure, the general structure of how to open the file object. And the example that we have used was my file, file, F. This is the open function, and then followed by the path of the file. So this will cover it in the later classes. And then these are again some extension and additional explanation. I want everybody to please go through all these slides, and if possible make a note of these slides till closing a file. Now till this point, if you could copy the notes, copy as notes, and then refer to the programs which I've shown you in the video itself. So with this, I would like to wind up my lesson, and then I'll be covering the remaining topics in the later video. Until then, take utmost care of yourself. Test the leg, and thank you very much.